In January 1957, 4 judges were sorting through 223 designs for a new opera house on Sydney Harbor. Most looked like buildings. Entry 218 looked like somebody had drawn a few enormous white curves, placed them beside the water, and left engineering a small note saying, "Best of luck." It won. The architect was Jørn Utzon, a 38-year-old Dane who had submitted just 12 drawings. His proposal was sculptural, dramatic, and completely different from the sensible rectangular boxes around it. There was one minor inconvenience. Nobody yet knew how to build the roof. Look at the real building. From the harbor, the roof appears to open like sails, shells, or wings. Utzon wanted a structure that belonged to the water and could be recognized from every direction. The government liked the vision enough to begin construction in 1959. This was bold, because the roof geometry was still unresolved. The podium started rising while the most famous part of the building remained, technically speaking, a very confident sketch. Engineer Ove Arup's team needed curves that could carry enormous loads and be manufactured repeatedly. Utzon's early shapes were beautiful, but every shell was different. Custom formwork for every curve would turn the roof into an extremely expensive concrete snowflake collection. For years, the team tested parabolas, ellipsoids, and other shapes that sound impressive right up until the calculations begin shouting. Then came the breakthrough. Instead of designing every shell separately, the team derived them from one sphere. Imagine cutting different wedges from the same orange. The shells could now share a single geometry, allowing builders to repeat precast concrete ribs instead of inventing a new roof system every Tuesday. That sphere transformed a drawing into a construction method. The surface received its own engineering obsession. More than 1 million ceramic tiles were arranged into 4,228 prefabricated chevrons. They were glossy enough to catch Sydney's changing light, but not so reflective that the harbor acquired a second sun and several complaints. By the mid-1960s, the shells were taking shape. So were the arguments. Costs had climbed. Politicians demanded more drawings and tighter control. Utzon insisted that prototypes were necessary before he could finalize the interiors. Payments stopped. Meetings became shorter and much less musical. In February 1966, after one meeting lasting about 15 minutes, Utzon walked out and submitted his resignation. Public protests followed, but he left Australia 2 months later. He never returned to see the completed building. The unfinished project passed to Australian architect Peter Hall and his team. They inherited spectacular shells, changing requirements, unresolved interiors, and considerably fewer helpful drawings than anyone would enjoy. Hall redesigned the performance spaces, foyers, glass walls, and interiors while engineers completed the roof. The last of 2,194 precast shell segments was installed in 1967. The building finally opened in October 1973, 14 years after construction began. An early estimate of $7 million Australian dollars had become a final cost of about $102 million. That is not a budget adjustment. That is a budget discovering opera. So who really built the Sydney Opera House? Utzon supplied the impossible vision. Arup and hundreds of engineers and builders found repeatable physics inside it. Hall and his team turned the unfinished monument into a working performing arts center. The building is not a clean story about one genius being proved right. It is a messier story about imagination, engineering, conflict, compromise, and completion. The sketch survived the calculations. The relationships were less fortunate. And Sydney got a building that still looks impossible, even after everyone proved it was not.